You know, usually when we talk about a crime scene, there is this expectation of physical precision.
Right, like you can draw a map of it.
Exactly, like architecture. You have the yellow police tape, you have the broken glass scattered on the floor, maybe a muddy footprint on the carpet.
Yeah, the detective walks in, points a flashlight, and just says, there it is.
Yeah.
That is the point of impact.
Right, because it is tangible. It is broken or not broken. It is a clean physical reality that literally everyone can agree on.
And it's comforting, I mean, in a strange psychological way. We really like things to be visible.
Oh, absolutely.
We like them to be geographically contained.
Yeah.
You know, we want to know exactly where the hazard is so we can just step right around it.
But then you step into the modern world, the world of digital conflict, cross-border cyber harassment, and, well, psychological warfare.
Which is terrifying.
It really is.
Yeah.
Suddenly, that physical crime scene completely vanishes. We are looking at a landscape that is honestly just terrifyingly borderless.
Because the weapon is not a physical object you could just bag for evidence, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It is a globally accessible network. And the damage is not a shattered window in your living room. It is the systematic public dismantling of a person's entire reality.
It is the absolute definition of asymmetric warfare.
Yeah, break that down a bit for the listener.
Well, the physical distance between the attacker and the target might be thousands of miles. They could be on entirely different continents.
Right.
But the psychological impact of the attack is instantaneous, and it is brutally intimate.
Brutally intimate is the perfect way to phrase it. And the target in the massive stack of dossiers we are examining today is a man named Alberto Daniel Hill.
Yes, an elite, internationally recognized cybersecurity expert.
And on the other side of this conflict is his former partner, Suvi Hill, who operates online under the handle CyberGurl10.
And I have to say, the paper trail documenting this is staggering.
It is massive.
We are looking at forensic legal dossiers, clinical psychological evaluations, highly encrypted digital communication logs.
And active institutional protocols from multiple sovereign countries.
Right. It is incredibly dense.
And the core theme you, our listener, requested for this deep dive is intense. We are exploring the devastating psychological and economic damage inflicted upon a man who had already lost absolutely everything.
To a massive systemic injustice.
Exactly. We are going to look at the extraordinary, almost superhuman strength required to survive a renewed public assault when your baseline is already profoundly traumatized.
Which is such a crucial factor here.
It is, and this is the really wild part. We're going to step directly into the mind and the documented perspective of his attacker, Suvi.
Because we have to understand why.
Right. Why she continues her campaign despite overwhelming, certified, objective evidence proving that her claims are entirely false.
It is a profound study in human behavior, honestly. It is the ultimate collision of internalized emotional narratives with cold, objective legal reality.
And it shows the permanent consequences of weaponizing digital spaces. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
To really grasp the weight of this digital attack, we cannot just start with the tweets and the harassment.
No, that would be missing the entire foundation.
Right. We first have to understand the fragile, hard-won reality of the target. We have to understand Alberto's baseline before this new nightmare even began.
Context is absolutely everything here. You cannot understand the gravity of the current harassment without understanding the history of the man enduring it.
Exactly.
The psychological term we use in the dossiers is pre-existing vulnerability.
So let's talk about that history. Alberto Daniel Hill is a Uruguayan cybersecurity expert.
And an author.
Yes. He wrote a highly regarded book called Operation Bitcoin's Login to Hell. He is also a podcaster hosting the Cyber Midnight Club.
So he is incredibly established.
Oh, he operates in the top 1% to 3% of cybersecurity consultants in all of Latin America.
Wow.
But his professional pedigree, as impressive as it is just one part of the story. Because in 2017, Alberto endured a horrific, life-altering systemic trauma.
And it was a trauma inflicted by the very system designed to protect citizens, which makes it so much worse.
I really want to dig into how this actually happened. Because it sounds like a movie plot, but it is documented reality. He was acting as an ethical hacker, right?
Yes.
And he discovered this massive vulnerability in a medical provider system in Uruguay.
Let's pause and explain what that actually means in practice for you listening.
Yeah.
Ethical hackers, or white hat hackers, actively probe networks to find weak points before malicious actors can exploit them.
Right. They are the good guys checking the locks.
Exactly. And Alberto found a catastrophic breach. We are talking about highly sensitive patient records.
And not just any records.
No. specifically including the identities and medical histories of HIV-positive individuals.
Which is just, I mean, the level of sensitivity there is off the charts.
And these records were not just sitting there unprotected. They were actively being held for a $60,000 Bitcoin ransom by actual malicious cybercriminals.
So it is a live hostage situation, digitally speaking.
Yes. So Alberto does exactly what you were supposed to do in a functioning society. He adheres to the ethical disclosure protocols of his profession.
Right.
He reports the vulnerability to the authorities to help save the medical provider and protect the patients.
And the state's response, I mean, you would think they would give him a medal.
Or at least hire him.
Right. But they didn't. They raided his home.
It is unbelievable. They arrested him. They threw him in a maximum security environment.
He became the very first person ever imprisoned in Uruguay for a computer-related crime. And he was completely, demonstrably innocent.
He was literally jailed for doing the right thing.
He lost everything in that moment. The state confiscated his professional equipment. They took his servers, his computers, his hard drives.
The literal tools he needs to make a living.
Gone. But more than that, he lost his physical freedom. He lost his peace of mind. He was thrust into this legal and psychological hell, surrounded by actual criminals, knowing he had only tried to help.
It is the ultimate betrayal by society.
He had to fight relentlessly for years to prove his innocence. It is a journey that was later famously documented on the Darknet Diaries podcast.
And this is where this psychological analysis in our source dossiers becomes so critical to the current situation.
How so?
Well, when we look at Alberto post-2017, we're looking at an individual who suffers from severe post-traumatic stress disorder.
PTSD.
Yes, PTSD and major depressive disorder as a direct clinical result of that state-level persecution.
Which is completely understandable. But he didn't just give up. He didn't fade away.
No, he really fought back.
He rebuilt his life. And he didn't rebuild quietly in the shadows, hiding from the internet. He embraced what the dossiers call radical transparency.
Which is an incredibly difficult psychological pivot. I mean, after being destroyed by false accusations, your basic human instinct is to hide.
To just get off the grid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he went the other way. He rebuilt his profile to command enterprise-level contracts. He became a strategic advisory asset for massive corporations.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to unpack the psychological concept of a reclaimed identity.
Yes.
When someone loses their life, their freedom, and their good name to a fabricated narrative, and they painstakingly rebuild it through radical transparency.
Their professional reputation ceases to be just a career.
It is not just a LinkedIn profile where you post your resume.
No, not at all. It becomes their armor. It is their psychological anchor to reality.
Oh, I like that.
It is the tangible proof that they survived the injustice and emerged victorious. But, paradoxically, a history of systemic trauma also makes an individual a highly vulnerable partner in future relationships.
Why is that? Because they seem so strong having survived it.
Because they carry an invisible weight. They require a baseline of trust and procedural fairness that most people just take for granted.
That makes sense.
For someone like Alberto, the trauma of false accusations is a permanent raw nerve. It is a psychological scar that never fully fades.
You know, think of it like this. Alberto's rebuilt reputation is like a painstakingly restored antique glass vase. Imagine someone who has spent years, 7 years, in Alberto's case, on their hands and knees, finding every single shattered microscopic piece of glass.
It's brutal, tedious work.
Yeah. They carefully glue them back together. They polish it until it shines again, until it looks totally flawless from a distance.
Right.
When you have done that level of grueling emotional labor to restore your life, someone walking up and just tapping on the glass is not a minor annoyance.
No, it is an existential threat to your entire structural integrity.
Exactly.
The fragility of the restored object is completely hidden by the beauty of the restoration. But the owner knows exactly how easily it can shatter again.
Because they lived it.
And they know exactly how much blood it took to put it back together.
So if Alberto's reputation, his reclaimed life, is this incredibly fragile glass vase, what happens when it becomes the target of a relentless public digital sledgehammer?
A disaster.
What happens when the person closest to you, the person who knows your history, decides to weaponize that exact trauma against you?
That brings us to the core conflict, detailed in these forensic dossiers. And I have to say, The anatomy of this attack is psychologically baffling at first glance.
It really is. Let's look at the timeline. The conflict stems from a dissolved relationship between Alberto and Suvi.
Right.
Now, Suvi is a single mother living in Belgium, and according to the psychological briefing documents, she is navigating an incredibly high-conflict international custody battle with her ex-husband.
She is under an immense amount of chronic external stress. We are talking about severe legal battles, documentation problems across European borders.
And what the files describe as a highly toxic, ongoing dynamic with her former spouse.
Exactly.
So keep that intense custody battle in mind, because the trigger for her digital assault on Alberto is so disproportionate, so wildly out of scale, that it almost doesn't make sense until you dig into the psychology.
It seems trivial on the surface.
Totally. What was the massive offense Alberto committed? He set a simple relational boundary. During a digital call, he told Suvi she had 5 minutes to speak with her daughter.
A logistical constraint. A completely standard boundary in a blended family, or a complex domestic communication dynamic.
Literally just, hey, you have 5 minutes. And in response to this 5-minute boundary, Suvi launched a massive, coordinated public humiliation campaign.
She did not just argue with him privately.
No. She targeted high-trust digital spaces. She went on X, formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn.
The exact platforms where Alberto houses his professional armor.
Right. And she didn't just vent about him being a bad boyfriend. She explicitly accused Alberto, an internationally recognized enterprise-level cybersecurity expert, of being a romance scammer and a cocaine user.
She bypassed personal grievances and went straight for the jugular of his professional credibility, his corporate viability, and his moral character.
But wait, hold on. Here is where the behavioral paradox, as the forensic records it, just blows my mind.
It is wild.
I want to look at situation A versus situation B. Situation B is Alberto giving her a 5-minute boundary, which results in a multi-platform public smear campaign designed to end his career.
Right.
But situation A, let's look at what her ex-husband did. Her ex-husband committed an unauthorized international removal of their 11-year-old daughter.
He took the child across sovereign borders, from Belgium to France.
Without a valid passport, without national identity cards, and completely without maternal consent.
Which is staggering.
Under Belgian and Italian law, this is not a misunderstanding. This is a severe criminal act carrying potentially 5 to 10 years of imprisonment.
It is a massive, real-world, physical and legal danger to the child.
And how did Suvi meet this massive, literal kidnapping trauma?
According to the behavioral assessments, she met it with passive silence.
Silence.
No public outrage, no digital campaigns, no tagging Interpol on Twitter.
That makes absolutely zero logical sense. Are you telling me she ignores a literal international abduction of her own child across the Belgian-French border, but she tries to destroy Alberto's career and livelihood over a 5-minute phone boundary?
I know.
Did her brain just short-circuit?
It looks completely irrational until you understand the psychological mechanisms at play.
The dossiers identified 2 specific, deeply studied phenomena here: ego depletion and displaced aggression.
Let's break those down, because I need to understand how someone makes that jump.
Let's start with ego depletion. In psychology, this refers to a state where a person's ability to regulate their emotions, exercise self-control, and make rational decisions is completely exhausted.
Like they're just running on empty.
Exactly. Think of willpower and emotional regulation like a physical muscle. If you lift heavy weights all day, your muscle eventually fails.
You can't even lift a pencil.
Right. Suvi was psychologically exhausted by the chronic, unresolved trauma of the international child abduction and the ongoing systemic abuse from her ex-husband.
So her emotional battery wasn't just low, it was completely dead.
Dead. She had zero capacity to process a new stressor. She had no energy left to fight the actual legitimate threat, which was the ex-husband.
And because the ex-husband was either too threatening, too legally complex, or simply too terrifying to confront directly, she couldn't process her anger where it actually belonged.
And that leads to the second thing.
Yes, this leads directly into the second phenomenon, displaced aggression.
How does that work in this context?
Displaced aggression is what happens when you redirect pent-up, massive hostility onto a target that is safer.
Safer.
Yeah, think of it like this. Your boss screams at you at work, threatening your job. You can't scream back at your boss or you will be fired.
Right, the stakes are too high.
So you hold it in, you go to a coffee shop, and you completely unload on a barista because they got your order slightly wrong.
Ah.
The barista is a safe target. The boss is a dangerous target. Suvi redirected her massive, unaddressed trauma onto the more accessible and vulnerable partner, Alberto.
Because Alberto is not going to abduct her child. Alberto is safe. Alberto is predictable. So she is literally punishing Alberto for the sins of the ex-husband.
Precisely. The 5-minute rule, as trivial as it seems objectively, challenged her sense of maternal authority.
It hit a raw nerve.
It triggered a retaliatory aggression that had very little to do with the 5 minutes and absolutely everything to do with the unresolved trauma of her ex-husband stripping her of her custodial power.
So she attacked the man who set a verbal boundary because she was psychologically incapable of attacking the man who took her child across a border.
Yes, and the method of her attack is what the dossiers refer to as the weaponization of high-trust digital spaces.
Because Suvi didn't just send Alberto a nasty text message. She didn't call him and yell at him. She ambushed Alberto's digital campfire.
I really appreciate that term for the reports. The digital campfire is a profound concept.
Right, because Alberto hosts these X spaces. These are live, public audio rooms where top-tier cybersecurity professionals, corporate executives, ethical hackers, and privacy advocates gather to share knowledge.
It is a community built entirely on trust and intellectual credibility.
And Suvi deliberately bypassed private communication and aired highly personal, entirely fabricated grievances right in the middle of his professional town square.
She intentionally breached relational ethics to inflict the absolute maximum commercial and reputational damage.
She wanted his peers, his employers, his clients to see it.
It is the pinnacle of cyber displacement. She is using digital tools to bypass traditional conflict resolution.
Which is so cowardly in a way.
It allows the attacker, Suvi, to remain physically shielded behind a screen in Belgium while causing catastrophic explosive damage to a man in Uruguay.
But understanding the psychological displacement, understanding that Suvi is acting out of this deep, exhausted trauma from her ex-husband, it does not lessen the impact of the sledgehammer hitting the glass vase.
Not at all. The damage is done.
We have to look at exactly how these specific lies tore into Alberto's meticulously rebuilt life, because the damage documented in these dossiers is not just about hurt feelings, it is highly quantifiable.
It is entirely forensic. It is measurable economic and biological destruction.
Let's talk about the economic ruin first. The attacks directly targeted Alberto's commercial sector. When you operate in the top 1% of international cybersecurity, your entire business model, your entire livelihood is built on trust, confidentiality, and flawless risk management.
I want to explain how corporate compliance actually works in this scenario.
Please do.
If a massive enterprise, let's say a global bank or a multinational healthcare provider, is looking to hire a cybersecurity consultant, their HR and compliance departments use automated risk algorithms.
They just scrape everything.
Right. They scrape the internet, LinkedIn, X, public records. If their software flags a candidate who has been publicly accused of being a cocaine user and a romance scammer, that individual is immediately disqualified.
Even if it's completely made up.
It does not matter if it is true or false to the algorithm.
Wow.
The mere presence of the public allegation creates an unacceptable liability for a corporation. They will quietly move on to the next candidate without ever asking for Alberto's side of the story.
The legal dossiers we have include a forensic recalculation of Alberto's lucro cessante, which is the Uruguayan legal term for loss of profits.
And the numbers are shocking.
The analysis points out something chilling. A global smear campaign on enterprise-facing boards like LinkedIn takes roughly 24 months of relentless, multi-jurisdictional litigation to completely purge from search engines and compliance databases.
2 full years of being locked out of your own industry.
Exactly. During that 24-month freeze, the loss of enterprise chief security officer retainers, global corporate advisory roles, and specialized digital forensic casework is staggering.
Just massive losses.
The baseline commercial loss for Alberto is forensically calculated at $240,000.
$250,000 simply evaporated because of a displaced emotional outburst online.
It's sickening.
But the economic damage, as severe as it is actually secondary to the physical and moral harm documented here.
This is where the story gets incredibly dark and, frankly, deeply disturbing. The harassment didn't just target Alberto's career. Suvi used extortive messaging behind the scenes.
Yes.
The digital logs capture phrases sent to Alberto like, "What if I tell your mother about the money?"
Which is a textbook escalation.
Yeah.
It moves from public defamation into targeted criminal coercion and psychological torture.
And it had severe, immediate biological consequences. Alberto's mother, Maria Gloria Antonioli, is 73 years old.
You have to remember, she already lived through the nightmare of 2017.
She watched her innocent son be dragged into a maximum security prison. The acute distress and panic induced by this ongoing harassment, this new threat hanging over her son again, it just broke her.
It is heartbreaking.
The clinical records from her internal medicine specialist document a rapid, advanced neurological and physiological decline. She physically collapsed into full wheelchair immobility as a direct medically certified result of the psychological terror of Suvi's campaign.
The physical toll of cyber harassment is rarely discussed in the media. We think of it as just words on a screen.
Just pixels.
But here it is. Clinically certified by physicians,
Right.
the body keeps the score. The legal teams have formalized civil damage demands of $50,000 for Alberto's psychological torture and a specific $20,000 demand for the clinical anxiety and physical immobility forced upon his 73-year-old mother.
And I just keep thinking about the sheer, unimaginable strength required from Alberto in this moment.
It is unfathomable.
He already suffers from PTSD. He already battles major depressive disorder from the state betrayal, facing false accusations again, watching his elderly mother collapse into a wheelchair because of a woman he tried to help.
The psychological reports note that this triggered a severe, agonizing regression for him.
Anyone in that specific scenario, especially someone with his history, would be pushed to the absolute breaking point of their sanity.
Oh, absolutely.
The instinct to lash out, to seek immediate chaotic revenge online would be overpowering. You would want to burn the internet to the ground.
You would want to go on Twitter and scream every terrible, deeply personal secret you knew about your attacker.
Yes. It takes a level of superhuman restraint to watch someone publicly destroy your life, permanently damage your mother's health, and not scream back in the comments section.
It really does.
It is like standing inside a soundproof glass box in the middle of a city square, while someone stands outside with a megaphone, screaming vicious lies to a massive crowd. Every single human instinct is screaming at you to punch through the glass, break it, and attack the person holding the megaphone.
But Alberto didn't break the glass.
No, he chose to legally reinforce it.
Which demonstrates what the psychological assessments call extraordinary structural maturity.
Structural maturity, that is a great term.
Instead of engaging in a public mudslinging match, which is exactly what Suvi wanted, because it would have validated her chaotic narrative, he immediately centralized his strategy inside formal, rigid institutional channels.
He hired an expert criminal defense counsel, Dr. Jorge Henderson. He instituted a strict, ironclad zero-contact policy. He didn't text her back. He didn't engage in the comments.
He routed all the attacks through formal consular tracks and state protocols. He filed everything with the Italian Data Protection Authority, the Garante della Privacy, in Rome.
He treated it like a data breach.
He converted every unhinged tweet, every extortive email, into a cataloged, hashed piece of legal evidence. He acted with the cold, clinical objectivity of the digital diagnostics expert that he is.
So we see the immense catastrophic damage inflicted on Alberto, the economic ruin, the physical collapse of his mother, and his incredible restraint.
Right.
But to truly grasp the complexity of this conflict, we cannot just look at Alberto's data. We have to look at the person holding the sledgehammer.
We have to look at Suvi.
What is the narrative playing on loop in Suvi's head? Why does she keep swinging when the damage is so obvious?
To understand that, we have to look at the resilience journal persona identified in the forensic analysis. We have to temporarily step into her perspective, as flawed as it is.
You know, it is easy to look at a thick legal dossier and just see a two-dimensional villain. But human beings rarely see themselves as the villain in their own story.
Rarely ever.
I want to try something. I want to actually step into her shoes for a second, based on the actual text from the Resilience Journal of Suvi Hill.
Okay, let's hear it.
If I'm Suvi, this is the narrative playing in my head. I am sitting there thinking, I see the legal notices, I see the forensic reports telling me I have to take the posts down. I continue posting, even when their evidence proves my claims are technically false.
She feels justified.
Right. They use these cold, sterile, technical words like defamation and displaced aggression and lucro cessante, but they don't know what it is like to be me. They don't know what it is like to be a mother, fighting a brutal, terrifying custody battle in a foreign country, feeling totally powerless.
The victim mindset.
Exactly. When Alberto and I were together, it felt like us against the world. But then he started putting up boundaries. He turned into a wall of rigid protocols. 5 minutes for phone call. He ghosted me. He erased my emotional reality with his perfectly polished, cold forensic reports. They point to my posts and say malice. I say it is my only voice.
Wow.
He uses his digital campfire to look like a hero, a digital knight, while I am drowning in stress. So I post the truth as I experience it. My anger is valid, my pain is real, and my heartbreak. My heartbreak is not a case file.
That is an incredibly powerful and highly dangerous cognitive framework.
It feels very real to her.
If we unpack that mindset, we see the exact mechanism of the ongoing conflict. Suvi perceives the digital space entirely as a personal, therapeutic, emotional outlet.
Right.
She does not view her posts as a calculated corporate assassination. She views them as speaking her truth to her online fam, her supportive community.
She genuinely thinks she's just writing in her personal diary, a diary that just happens to be published to the entire globe, indexable by Google.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She feels betrayed relationally, so she lashes out relationally. But this creates a profoundly toxic asymmetry.
How so?
She is airing deeply personal, highly subjective emotional grievances in the exact same environment, LinkedIn, X, where Alberto builds his highly specialized, objective professional reputation.
It is like she is throwing emotional paint balloons in the middle of his sterile operating room. It ruins the entire environment.
And this raises an important question, perhaps the defining legal and philosophical question of the modern internet era.
What's that?
How does the law handle an individual whose internalized emotional truth is objectively, measurably destroying another person's external legal and economic reality?
Right. Because my truth sounds fantastic on a motivational poster on Instagram. But what happens when my truth collides head-on with undeniable, certified forensic reality?
Just shatters.
Because that is exactly what happened here. The collision is spectacular. Let's test this emotional truth against the actual forensics, because the legal team compiled objective evidence that actively disproves Suvi's narrative, proving that she is continuing to spread known lies.
Let's start with what the dossier is categorized as the drugs lie.
Suvi publicly accused Alberto, in front of his enterprise peers, of being a cocaine user. Now, as we established, if you are a corporate entity looking to hire a cybersecurity consultant to protect your multi-million-dollar infrastructure, a hard drug accusation is an immediate, non-negotiable disqualifier.
It is instant death for a contract.
But what does the evidence show?
Alberto immediately submitted to certified, clinical, toxicological laboratory panels, full blood and hair tests.
What?
And the results are entirely clean.
Just Sumer trace.
Negative across the board. He has certified clinical proof for medical professionals that her statement is a total fabrication.
Next, we have the financial and scammer lie. Suvi claims Alberto is a romance scammer who refuses to pay his debts to her. She paints him as this financial predator stealing from a single mother.
This one is particularly revealing of the regulatory sabotage Suvi is employing. Forensic audit trails of their emails and secure messages show that Alberto repeatedly, formally, and transparently offered to pay the underlying financial claim.
You want to settle it.
He wanted to settle it to sever ties completely.
But the transaction is physically blocked. It is blocked under international finance law because Suvi systematically refuses to provide the mandatory anti-money laundering, or AML, documentation.
Let me explain how cross-border banking actually works here. When you try to execute an international wire transfer, global banking laws require verified passport data, proof of address, and specific account routing parameters.
It is not a suggestion.
No, it is a hard requirement to prevent money laundering and terrorism financing. Suvi refused to provide her lawyer with the routing numbers. She outright refused to send her passport info to the compliance officers.
It is the ultimate tragic irony. Suvi is publicly screaming that he won't pay her, demanding this money. But she herself is holding the only key to the vault by refusing to send the standard banking documents.
It makes no sense.
It is exactly like screaming at a cashier, throwing a tantrum and demanding your change, while stubbornly refusing to hand over your wallet to pay for the item in the first place.
Perfect analogy.
And furthermore, the legal logs show their original WhatsApp and Telegram agreement explicitly stated he only had to pay her back when he secured a stable income. There was no deadline. He was offering to pay her early. She blocked the legal mechanism to receive the money, and then she publicly called him a scammer.
It is a totally manufactured crisis, Then there is the Interpol lie.
Oh, the audacity of this one just floors me. Suvi publicly claimed, in order to terrify Alberto, that she and her lawyer had filed international arrest warrants against him with Interpol and Europol.
Which is a direct, calculated attempt to re-traumatize a man who was already wrongfully imprisoned by the state.
It is so cruel.
She is using his deepest PTSD trigger as a weapon.
But Dr. Jorge Henderson and the legal team didn't just panic. They ran deep, exhaustive searches with the Uruguayan Ministry of Interior, European police databases, and international liaison channels. What did they find?
Nothing.
Absolutely zero records, no warrants, no reports, no red notices. It was a complete bluff designed entirely for psychological torture. And legally, this exposes Suvi to severe charges.
Yes, the crime of calunnia in Italy and similar statutes in Uruguay.
What is calunnia?
Calunnia is the severe crime of false reporting or the simulation of a crime. Claiming you have initiated an international manhunt when you haven't is a crime in itself.
Unbelievable. And finally, the behavioral contradiction that the lawyers call the contradiction of intellect. This is the moment that apparently caused Alberto to completely, finally emotionally detach from her.
Let's set the context for this one. Alberto, utilizing his legal and security expertise, was trying to protect Suvi's minor daughter. He warned Suvi not to let her ex-husband take the daughter to Poland without the proper legal maternal authorization.
He was trying to prevent a second international abduction.
Yes. How did Suvi respond to this expert advice? Did she say thank you? No, she mocked him. She sent messages dripping with arrogance, telling Alberto that he knows nothing because he doesn't live in Europe.
She treated an internationally recognized legal and digital expert like an ignorant third-world outsider.
And she stated she absolutely would not sign any authorization for the Polish trip.
But digital monitoring and forensic logs show what she actually did in the real world. After mocking Alberto and calling him ignorant, she quietly went behind his back and signed the exact authorization Alberto told her was legally required.
She just caved.
She blindly obeyed her abusive ex-husband, ensuring his travel was legal, while simultaneously degrading the man who was trying to protect her.
It is the ultimate proof of her displaced aggression. She submits entirely to the abuser, and she ruthlessly punishes the protector.
So she is faced with all this objective evidence. She knows about the clean lab results. She knows she is blocking the AML transfers. She knows there are no Interpol warrants.
She knows she is lying.
But she keeps the defamatory posts up. Why does this matter legally? What happens when you know it is a lie, but leave it online anyway?
This introduces a critical legal concept in both Uruguayan and Italian law, dolo directo, or premeditated malice.
Okay, premeditated malice.
The forensic dossier highlights a specific, highly damaging image Suvi kept visible on her profile. It is a picture that prominently displays Alberto's book, Operation Bitcoins, Log into Hell, alongside a highly formal presentation layout of his forensic data methodologies.
So she is literally posting a picture of his elite professional credentials.
Exactly. But the text she attaches to this image frames him as a criminal, a drug user, and an amateur scammer.
Why is that a legal death sentence for her defense?
Because by acknowledging his elite published authority and his specialized expertise in the image, while simultaneously publishing text designed to destroy his market value, she proves she knows exactly what she is destroying.
Right.
She's not acting out of ignorance. She's not just a confused ex-girlfriend. She is intentionally targeting his precise commercial sector to maximize economic damage. That is dolo directo.
It is like a bank robber walking into a bank, looking directly up into the security camera, holding up their own driver's license to the lens, and then proceeding to rob the vault.
Great analogy.
She can't play dumb. She literally posted his resume while trying to burn his career to the ground.
And this leads to a devastating legal reality. Under Uruguayan Penal Code Article 333 and Italian Penal Code Article 595, defamation via globally accessible electronic networks is treated as a continuous crime.
A continuous crime. Meaning what, exactly?
It means that every single second that defamatory post remains live and accessible to the public, the crime is being committed anew.
Wait, really?
Yes. She is actively renewing the offense right now as we speak.
Yeah.
She cannot claim to a judge, oh, it was a past mistake, an emotional impulse from a bad night 2 months ago. By choosing to keep it visible today, she is committing the crime today.
And she was warned. She completely ignored the formal cease and desists from Dr. Henderson. She ignored the gold rule of zero contact. The lawyers explicitly told her, in writing, do not contact Alberto.
And what'd she do?
She sent 6 consecutive emails to him.
Emails which Alberto intelligently left unopened. allowing the legal team to extract the raw metadata hashes to prove persistent, unwanted harassment without tampering with the contents.
Okay, so she ignored the warnings, she violated the gold rule, she sent the 6 emails because she won't stop, because she absolutely refuses to take the post down and provide the basic AML documents. What is the payload?
It is massive.
What is the multi-jurisdictional execution Dr. Henderson has prepared? Because this is where the true consequences of cyber harassment finally materialize.
The legal response is sweeping, and it operates on multiple devastating tracks simultaneously. Let's start with the Italian criminal track.
Alberto's team filed formal complaints with the Procura della Repubblica in Rome. Suvi is facing criminal charges under Article 612 bis,
Which is atti persecutori, the Italian legal definition of stalking and cyber harassment, and Article 595, diffamazione aggravata, aggravated defamation.
and crucially, they engaged the Garante della Privacy. How does that mechanism work?
The Garante della Privacy is the Italian Data Protection Authority. They officially registered multiple independent criminal and data violation protocols against her social media handles.
That sounds serious.
The Garante has immense power in the EU to levy fines and compel platform compliance. Because she ignored formal state protocols from a national authority, when a prosecutor looks at her file, it entirely erases any defense of good faith or emotional confusion.
Then there is the corporate and professional demise track, and this is brutal. Dr. Henderson's firm is prepared to take the certified cyber harassment dossier, complete with the clinical harm reports regarding the mother, the stalking logs, and the continuous crime evidence, and deliver it straight to the HR and compliance departments of Suvi's current employer.
In a modern corporate environment, an employee actively engaged in cross-border criminal cyberstalking, extortion, and European data privacy violations is a massive radioactive liability.
Obviously.
The projected outcome there is an imminent risk of termination for cause. She will lose her income.
But it gets even worse for her. The family court disruption track. Remember the ex-husband's unauthorized removal of the 11-year-old daughter to France?
Yes. Article 574 beams of the Italian Penal Code. International minor abduction.
Alberto's legal team is taking the behavioral logs and the evidence of this undocumented minor abduction, and they are serving it directly to the authorities in Brussels and Rome.
Which completely, irreparably destroys Suvi's leverage in her custody metrics.
How could it not?
How could she claim to be the protective parent when there is a documented trail of her ignoring an international abduction to focus on cyberstalking an ex-boyfriend? Furthermore, it exposes the ex-husband to an automated European arrest warrant.
So she brought the law down on her own ex-husband by attacking Alberto.
Yes. By attacking Alberto, she has inadvertently triggered a massive, blinding legal spotlight on her own fragile, highly toxic family dynamics. She has ruined her own custody case.
And finally, the civil offset. Suvi's original claim, the money she was screaming for Alberto to pay her, is completely neutralized.
Because she crossed the line into extortion. What if I tell your mother?
Right.
Once you cross into extortion and the intentional infliction of emotional distress, the baseline financial claim is legally offset. The moral and punitive damages she now owes Alberto for the $240,000 in lost enterprise contracts and the medical bills for his mother's physical collapse will completely mathematically wipe out any minor debt he owed her.
So let's step back. What does this all mean? It means total asymmetric risk.
Yep.
Alberto achieved complete legal exoneration. He did it through clean lab results, strict, unyielding adherence to legal protocol, and radical transparency. He is essentially a protected witness in the eyes of the law.
While Suvi has trapped herself entirely in her own digital footprint. By ignoring warnings and treating the internet like an emotional diary, she faces potential SASS alerts, Schengen Information System alerts at international borders.
Wait, like she couldn't travel?
She could literally be stripped of her freedom of movement within the European Union, detained at an airport, all because she wouldn't delete a defamatory tweet.
It means emotional immaturity online has devastating, permanent, real-world legal consequences. As we pull back from this intense cross-border legal battlefield, we have to look at what this teaches us about living in the modern digital age.
It is a stark contrast, isn't it? On one side, you have a man who survived state-level wrongful imprisonment, a man who knows intimately in his bones how dangerous the world can be.
And he methodically, coldly protected his reclaimed life by leaning entirely into objective legal frameworks. He didn't rely on emotion, he relied on procedure and evidence.
And on the other side, A woman whose unresolved personal trauma, her exhaustion, and her chronic stress led her to weaponize a public platform.
She thought she was shouting into the void or maybe shouting to a supportive online fam, but ultimately she systematically destroyed her own legal, financial, and custody standing.
It is the ultimate tragedy of cyber displacement.
And to you listening to this deep dive right now, in an era where literally everyone uses social media to vent, to process bad breakups, to share their personal truths, this case is a chilling, sobering reminder. Your internal emotional truth does not override objective reality, and it certainly does not override the law.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, I will leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Go ahead.
We all walk around with these incredibly powerful devices in our pockets, and we often treat the internet as a diary with an audience, a place to vent, a place to be heard, a place to seek validation. But what if we started treating every single social media post, every angry tweet, every reactive comment, not as a fleeting emotional thought, but as a permanent, sworn testimony in a global courtroom?
Because that is exactly what it is.
If the digital shadows never forget, and if algorithms preserve our anger forever, how much of your own digital footprint could survive a rigorous forensic audit?
That physical crime scene tape we talked about at the beginning, it does not just block off broken glass anymore. It blocks off broken boundaries, malicious intent, and digital footprint.
And the picture it takes is permanent.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, think critically about the information you consume, and always, always mind your digital shadow.